how, as a company, do you find recruiting people that have blockchain experience? Do you find it's a hard one or an easy one, or is it? Do you know what I mean?
So you could probably appreciate when I started penning this out in 2014.
Oh.
I was quite fortunate in that I'm a software engineer, and I've spent a bit of time in database technologies as well. So far back into the DB2s of the world. But for me, I never sought out, and I still don't seek out to this day, blockchain engineers. What I seek out is really good cryptographers and those that know and understand database technologies, because we can build great blockchain engineers. We don't need to recruit them.
That's absolutely.
One of the things, and this is something, again, came from conversation through the Swedish group, is they said most of the big companies across the Nordic region are struggling with people who understand the concepts of how, like, again, it comes to the applied side. And one of the biggest companies in Sweden actually has over 200 blockchain applications that they want to implement, and no people who can, or not enough people, definitely, probably they have some, but not enough people to do anything with these projects. So they've literally parked all these crazy ideas, and they're looking for, how do we get the talent to fill this need? And that conversation was with the head of one of the major tech companies there, and they've since had multiple discussions. And so there's literally holes in the big corporate market for whole divisions where they can't recruit at the moment because there's just no talent pool to draw from. And what they're not looking for is similar to what you were saying, is they're not necessarily looking for the coders, because the coders are accessible and easy enough to find. But they're trying to figure out how do we, because it's not just about build the idea, it's also have someone to drive the project and to plan it out. It becomes a business of its own generally, like, or at least a project of its own.
Because you're not just re-engineering a system as in technology, you're re-engineering a people system and a value system. So that's a really particular skill set to find in the world. That's probably the greatest strength that EVERLEDGER holds outside of our technical geniuses, is that we do understand how we can align the value and values within a supply chain or within an industry. So we see a lot of money that was poured in very early from the likes of very large organisations, IBM being a prime example, Oracle as well, even large banks like Standard Chartered, looking at closed loop applications on blockchain in a corporate environment, which is fine, and there might be use cases around that in terms of data provenance, but if you're starting to bring together an industry level application, it takes a lot more than just enabling a technology with a bunch of applications to sit on top. You've really got to spend the time to align the data taxonomies, the lexicon of language that people are speaking, the value creation networks that need to be created, the control networks that may or may not need to be put in place, and that's really what is missing. And there aren't, to be honest with you, you can't point to a lot of global enterprise deployed applications in the world that have done that well.